All right. Hello, everybody. This is David Nottingham, creative director on Play Valorant. Yes, they can. Yep, they're all saying hi back. Okay, perfect. So, again, I'll introduce David. David is the creative director on Play Valorant, meaning he oversees. Well, perhaps I should let you just describe that. Yeah.
Cohesive, creative expression of the game. So if you think about music, audio, video, storytelling, all the various bits and pieces, making sure that they're all kind of coming together and singing with one tune. And I like to think of it as sort of great games have a voice and even a soul. And so it's like working with the team to just thread everything together to sort of let that come through.
Absolutely. And I know that by perusing your LinkedIn profile, you were previously on the League of Legends IP, working, I think, on IP development, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was on League of Legends for a few years. Actually, Anna, who's the executive producer on Valorant, she actually hired me when she was on League, and world building and creating original worlds and characters. That's always been my passion, and so I built up a bunch of like tools and process and experience, and so that was working with this team that creates skins. So if anyone's familiar with League of Legends or plays it, it's everything from like Project to Star Guardian. And then some of the stuff I worked on was like Odyssey, Gothic High Noon. That was a very cool one. And True Damage was the last thing I did. That
arguably the best skin lines.
That was awesome.
True Damage.
I really enjoyed that one.
Was phenomenal. Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And then obviously you didn't just hop into the industry straight into League. You've been building up your career since GTA 3.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even
and before that, yeah.
I mean, I have a few more gray hairs than you, right? You might have noticed. And so it's been really interesting because I guess it's like I grew up. I remember first home consoles, the first home computer games, like being on that journey as a kid, and it just being this incredible sort of world of like possibilities and dreaming. Like I just loved video games from the very beginning. And then but I never planned to get in the games industry, right? Like I never. Partly it was so much smaller than you didn't even really know there were jobs or that it was a thing you could do, and especially because it was really like you had to be a coder. Sometimes there was artists, but mostly coders would also do the art. Like so, it was just this level of technical and programming prowess, and so
that is not anywhere near what the structure we have in video game studios today.
No, I mean it's an important part, obviously, but I was kind of an artist, right? I went to art college, like that was the thing I loved to do, and so I kind of just fell sideways into it, really. After studying photography and then being in that situation after college where you need a job. And it was like, oh, this is a company hiring for people to come and test video games. I like video games. I play them all the time. And so that was kind of how I got into it.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you followed that path for quite some time now. I mean, I did look at your website and I saw your a legacy, so to say, and no, it's incredible the steps you've taken to get here. And sorry, let me turn down this music really quick. But go ahead.
It's really weird because it's so I think this is true for a lot of people. You you don't necessarily know what you want to do with your life, right? But you have certain things that you love, and you're trying to discover that. Then you get on a track, and you're like, oh, all of a sudden you have a job, or it seems to be a career. And I just sort of, partly the reason I stuck around in video games for so long was because I enjoyed working on them, but then also it was a career that allowed me to, it took me all over the world, So
Right.
I mean, I was born in Scotland, right? I'd moved to England when I was a kid, and then I had this opportunity to move to the States, to the Bay Area. Never been to the West Coast ever, and I was like, I didn't even care what the job was. I just jumped at it.
Wow.
Yeah, I came out there, and yeah, sort of never looked back. It's not strictly true. I've had times where I've definitely been like, I don't know if I want to make games anymore. I think everyone goes through something like that at some point. But the thing that always brought me back was that games are interactive, right? Film, music, to most extent, books, comics, like it's that unique interaction with players, and I think that's what's really cool about Riot, actually, is the way that the company thinks about players, and it really is this relationship you have with your audience. As we're talking, there was something I talked to the team about even when we were creating the IP for Valorant, right? Was I would talk about, like, until we launch, we don't even, there's this whole other person that's not in the room yet, which is
Right.
our players, right?
And that's a big
And
question mark as far as how things will play out.
well, it's a big question mark, and then it's also, that's a relationship to be built, right?
Right.
Part of why I wanted to talk to you, Annie, and the community was that it's getting to see how the players are interacting with the content, taking it, like theory crafting, shipping, like all this stuff, and the fact that we've created characters and worlds and experiences that now other people are inspired to play with and theory craft around is amazing, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's especially
Yeah,
true with a new IP, right? Like you were talking about building a relationship with, between the game, the devs, and then the players, right? Something
right.
like League putting out a new game, like for instance, Project L that's upcoming, right?
Yeah.
The transfer will be a bit smoother than with something like Valorant, where the world characters and narrative are completely new. I mean, save for the gameplay.
Yeah, it's a different set of problems, or creative problems, or challenges. Like on League, it's really fun to take characters that already exist, that players know and love, and then imagine them in different situations, different worlds, right? Like that's really fun. And then with Valorant, it was sort of a unique opportunity for me, also because I've worked on creating IP where you just start with an empty page and it's just all open ahead of you, right? And you have all this freedom. But with Valorant, it was a very different situation, actually, because the game had been in development for a number of years
Right.
at Riot. The gameplay itself was like super tight, really robust. It was always a great game to play, but it had gone through all these different cycles of, like, IP development. Some of that I know the community picks up on. There's certain things that get picked up on, like certain uh, sort of references or things that are like,
Right.
and some of that is from previous iterations, you know. Um, but when I joined the team, um, it's essentially, the interesting creative challenge was, there's a lot of what's already been built that's not going to change, right? We're not going
Right.
to completely throw everything out and start again. So how do you take what you have and then construct something with those building blocks, build a foundation that has this really interesting direction that you want to go with it, and then sets a course over time. And the team, this is like, you find when there's all these buzzwords or things, they're a bit buzzwordy, but you're like trying to find ways to describe what you're doing to the team that people can easily take as shorthand. So like one thing I had was when it came to the tone of the game, we would talk about it having this fresh style with attitude, and it was this way of saying we want it to feel modern, we don't want to be derivative, we want it to feel fresh, distinctive, and we don't want to be afraid of it having a sense of style. But another
Defy the
one was,
limits.
yes, exactly. Another one was an internal mantra, which was like bend to the light. And essentially what that means is it's nothing to do with lore.
No,
So,
absolutely.
okay,
Right. No, you're
but
fine.
like bend to the light it's a way of basically saying, hey, we just need to know where the destination is, like where our North Star is. And then it doesn't matter if every single decision we make is like perfect and lines up as this immaculate piece, because everything is imperfect. Game development is messy and imperfect, right? Humans are messy and imperfect.
Absolutely.
But it's like you have that North Star, and then you just focus on every step you take. You're bending a little bit more, so you're heading in the right direction. And
That's a
so
beautiful analogy for I guess
that was the one that the
process.
team. That was the one that the team that stuck. Yeah, there was probably other ones that I was like, oh,
It
this would be
sounds
awesome.
great. It comes out. It
Hey,
rolls off of the tongue really well.
I think it just worked. Yeah. Especially because it's like, that lead up to launch is super intense, super stressful. I'm dropping in at a time when a lot of people have already been like through several iterations and working away, and like that, all that energy that's gone into it, and there's a natural sense of like, oh crap, oops, should I say that? Anyway, new guy, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna change? Like this thing that I love, is that gonna go away? So it's also a way of just being like, hey, I'm here to be a safe person, right? I'm not here to just
break down your
throw
walls
everything
and
out. And
restructure
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and everything we do on the team, it's very collaborative. The creative work we do, I know there's people from the maps team that come on the board with you guys, and it's like we work in a very collaborative way. It's the only way really to work when we are trying to create this experience where we have so many different moving parts. There's all these like little bits of story content that we're trying to just drop in different areas of the game, that people are hopefully enjoying picking up on. Yeah,
Absolutely. And going back to when you mentioned the that motto, I think you'll find that I'm probably the one that holds the community back before they hop onto something and call it canon or call it meaningful, right?
right.
I'm always hesitant to call something canon or meaningful or interpret it as such. So, but even I'll get caught. For instance, with that recent announcement for the that Valorant Arabia put out, and I think it had to do
Yep.
with some kind of tournament, right? And a lot of us
Yes.
saw that and were immediately like, "This looks very official," and we we hopped onto it, and it turned out it was just promotional material, which is fine, of course, but
yeah,
I
we
think
got a bit caught up in that too. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I saw that video and I was like, "Wow, what's that? That looks cool." Oh, wait. And then I saw people going, "Is this a new map? Is there some new map coming?" And it was like, I feel like when you look at it, you can tell that it's a representation inspired by Bind, but yeah, that obviously wasn't super clear to people. Yeah, but we've got new maps coming, So
we've heard, right? A
yeah,
sewer, one with
sewer,
sewer,
lava,
lava.
dungeons.
We're gonna hit all the tropes.
Yep.
We'll have one on a
Yep.
boat, maybe. We'll have, but I'm not gonna put you
Oh
into it.
wait, do we have one on a boat? Oh no, I gotta be careful.
So
all right, there's got to be some questions, some spicy questions,
absolutely.
some lore-based questions. Let's dig
So
into it.
I'll get into some of the heavier ones. Let me quickly make
Okay.
sure. It looks like either Twitch or myself is having some kind of connectivity issue.
Oh,
Let me.
did we lose
the chat
people?
quickly.
All right, so if we've lost everyone, then Annie, I'm going to tell you the real truth about Radianite
Amazing.
before they come back on.
Okay, I'm
And
ready.
it's oh, damn it!
I cannot believe that.
Yeah,
Completely
wow,
subverted my
amazing,
expectations, right?
Yeah,
Here I was
yeah.
thinking, it was just you're an alternative to diamonds, it's just very valuable rock. I guess not.
Amazing. Nope. Defy the limits.
Right. So I'm going to quickly.
So I've brought up your Twitch stream now, and I'm looking at it, and yeah, there's an ad playing,
Oh,
and there's some chat.
thank you, Twitch. Let me ask my partner. Oh, your computer's off?
I turned it off.
Mike said that. Oh, so maybe it was a bandwidth issue. Our connection, our bandwidth allowance is actually pretty
Just
bountiful.
revealed all the things.
So I'm hearing it might be a Twitch issue, but from what I understand, the VOD is playing back.
You're
clear.
back. I can see you now.
All right. So.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people say that there might be an issue with Twitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we will just treat this as if we were recording this.
Something's
beforehand.
working now. I think it's really, it's like really behind now. So I think it's buffered, but it's like several. So people are experiencing us. We are now in the future, basically.
Absolutely.
You and I.
Okay. Well,
all right.
maybe that should be the tone of this
All right.
this stream.
Hey, Valorant set in the future.
Absolutely.
Look at what happened.
Beautiful near future Earth.
All right. So yeah,
Annabelle.
let's get back. That was very appropriately timed, just when the spicy questions were coming, right?
Absolutely. So the first lore heavy question, or at least as I've had it labeled, regards Sky, right? And so we got some lines recently that suggest that maybe she uses her powers in a limited manner, or maybe in a manner that wouldn't see a true potential come out. And most of those come from Omen. Mostly being curious about what she'd be capable of if she didn't hold back. And so obviously I don't want you to speak too deep, too far into Sky's backstory, because those are things you want to save for later down the line. But we're really just curious about the limits to Radiant abilities in general, right? For instance, on Jet's player card, on her tier 9 contract player card, we see a sort of weather anomaly, a tornado or a hurricane forming in Korea. Things of that nature, right? Because in game we see a very gameplay oriented demonstration of their abilities, right? So we were wondering if within the lore, within canon, are they capable of doing more?
So I mean, there's a couple of ways that I can speak to that, right? One is obviously when you think about the game that you're playing, attack shooter, right? Like we have a lot of defined constraints that are very much driven by the gameplay experience, and so one way to sort of think about the characters is it's the expression of the character and the lore and the IP within this game, right?
Right.
If, and I'm not confirming this, but like if we were ever to do another type of game with any of our characters in them, right, then you start to think about what's that gameplay experience you're creating. How are you manifesting their powers in a way that plays to that core fantasy, right? So, and I think so that sort of speaks to the practicalities of the gameplay and the game experience, right? The fact that
Right.
this is a game. When it comes to the lore, the way that we think about it is that there's this level of relationship with the power that the agents have, that and there are other people in the world who are not agents who also have this power, but it's very variable, and there's a few different factors that play into that. But one of them is, and this is sort of what hints at what Omen's getting to with Sky,
Mm-hmm.
is one of those variables is sort of how well the agent themselves has cultivated and mastered their ability, right? And so much like I don't. Yeah, I'm making a very obvious analogy, but like much like a Jedi in Star Wars, right? Who's on that path and learning,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and some people, they may have abilities that are more volatile, but they haven't, and they need to learn to control. Others where it could be just a very small manifestation, but if they tapped into something deeper, it could become more powerful. Then there's also the possibility that not all agents got their power the same way, right?
Right.
And so there's sort of a core reason why the majority of our agents that have radio abilities got them, but it's not the only one that exists in our world.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
all right.
All
That's
right.
great. All right. So I'm gonna quickly try something here that might help our situation out. I gotta love technical difficulties. Okay.
I'm just glad it's not me this time.
You know what? And I remember you saying you went ahead and edited the that teaser you gave us at the end of last year's kind of wrap up, right? The letters and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you posted it on the socials. That came out great. That honestly came out great. That has us talking to this day. I should
So
say.
everyone had me pretty scared too, because the way people were approaching it, and all of a sudden I saw people talking about, oh, I'm gonna run it through this frequency modulator and filter, and
Right.
and I suddenly I was like, oh my, people are gonna like crack this in a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden they'll be able to see this full thing, and so I was like, oh, did I underestimate the creativity and ability of people to use technology to uncover it all?
No, we unfortunately have not been able to.
Well, yeah, partly probably because again, from a technical point of view, I'm not the most sophisticated game developer, so I'm probably the approach I took was probably a brute force approach that someone a little more sophisticated would not have taken.
That's completely fine.
Yeah.
So as you know, I did this ARG for the stream and for the server, and I just used a website called photomosh.com that just provides a lot of those augmentations, for free. And I was able to get away with that, because if I had gone into Photoshop and tried to animate something like that, I would have had to spend a whole lot more time learning and perfecting that. So
it was fun.
so to say.
It was also fun to do create the images that went up on the article that went around the same time.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, those were great, and
yeah,
I think a lot of us assumed they were screens from a cinematic, just because the quality was so. Superb.
We'll see. All things will become clear. When it comes to the content that was there, you're definitely gonna learn before the year is out what all that content related to. Yeah,
Okay.
that will become clear.
And on that same note, the video we were speaking on earlier, will all of that content, like you mentioned, there was a tease in there for Astra. Will the other images that were teased in that video also come to light?
So the Astra teaser was actually really light. It was literally just, I had a few books carefully placed on the top. I wonder if I have some of them. Yeah, let me grab a couple of these. So these were just some books
Oh,
from authors that I had been reading and had sort of shared around with the team, from some authors, just writing sort of like from an African science fiction and fantasy perspective. Yeah, it was really cool.
doing your research, yeah, and also, I mean, I think we could use this as a segue to speak on the representation
Sure.
and the thoroughness that Riot takes and the team takes in making sure that different cultures, peoples are represented accurately and respectfully.
Yeah, and that's something, we so it's something on the team that is really important. Is that's something the team cares a lot about. It's also pretty fundamental to our approach with creating Valorant. So, for example, with our agents, we have this intention to be, globally oriented.
Right.
So there's that part of representation. We think about this game through the lens of that global audience. We want to have a cast of characters that people can look at, that feel aspirational, that feel authentic to a certain type of human, and also something that where they can feel seen in the game. It's also just from a sort of good creative craft point of view, like, there's a vast spectrum of humans and human
Absolutely.
experience, right? And if you just narrow yourself, and I think that's something, if I go back to certainly earlier years in the games industry, right, there was that was sort of a very narrow lens, and there's only so much like rugged, buzzsaw shaved action heroes that you want to play in a
Right.
game. Like, I love all the games, but I really love where games have gone, and then particularly at Riot, that we get to play in this space, that we can broaden the range of characters. And specifically with, because I know this has come up with your community on Discord, but like, so specifically with LGBTQIA representation in Valorant. We have a pretty active community within Riot already. There's like employee resource groups and
Right.
working groups that are also very passionate about this. And we have groups that we will engage with depending on what direction a character is going in. So with Astra, once we knew that this character was from Ghana, we worked with our kind of local Riot. We have this group called God, is it Riot Rigs? Anyway, there's a Riot Noir group that we worked with, but we also reached out and built a relationship with a developer in Ghana. We cast the voice actor in Ghana, and all that during a pandemic was pretty challenging, but like just really important for us that we get that right. And so similarly, right now, in terms of our existing roster,
Hmm.
um, you know, um, I think everyone can theory craft and sort of ship and match people.
Right.
I think in terms of what clearly in terms of what we have shone a light on with our characters right now, we're sort of mostly given the context of this battle ready group of agents, right?
Right.
We haven't really shown you a lot like what does Reyna do when she's off the clock? Like, what's
Right.
Killjoy doing when she's kicking back? But we definitely want to peel back that more
Right. And give them
over the
more of
life of the
a
journey.
human and
Yeah,
dynamic
so we'll
character. Yeah.
absolutely reveal more about that as these characters become more fully fleshed out with the community and with players. But also, I think that one thing to touch on, for example, is when it comes to sort of things like gender and something where we might have someone that's not sort of a binary representation. That's something where we want it to be a organic evolution that feels right for that character, right? There are sort of core truths that you want to peel away as you're exploring the character. And there's a point when you're developing them when, at least for me, like they become real, right? They become real in your head. So I think about, Phoenix or Killjoy or Astra, right? Like in this very protective form. And so we want to make sure that when we realize that there's a character where that's what wants to emerge, that we then hire the right people, work with the right people, we cast the right people to bring voice, and
to make it
we
authentic.
approach the right. And so I would definitely expect that will be something that will happen, right? Because again, getting back to the creative range, it's important. It makes for better content. It's better for players, for all players, So I think it's something that I think is exciting for all sorts of reasons that make the game better.
Right. And on that foundational level, when you're writing or sharing a character, you don't start with things like sexuality and gender, right? Something like nationality really is at the forefront of.
Maybe if we were designing a dating game,
naturally, right? Yeah.
We might start to think about things like that. But and I think sexuality is complex, right? And people's
Absolutely.
relationship with their sexuality is complex. Wherever anyone sort of self-identifies, that doesn't mean that one size fits all, right?
You would approach it no differently than learning about someone that you've met, right? Or someone that you're getting to know.
And this, I mean, not to trivialize it, right? But it's like when we think about the music that they listen to as characters, right? Those playlists that you see, those playlists aren't, oh, hey, from a marketing positioning point of view, what makes sense, etc. We're really, it's another level of bringing life to the characters and thinking about what are the tunes, what's the music that Reyna likes to bang out to, like when she's just wants to turn off her brain and get away from everything. Like, what's the music she wants to lose herself in?
And it's ingenious storytelling, because even now, right, when you form a friendship with someone, a thing I do a lot with friendships I'm forming is send a playlist of music that I enjoy, right? And this is no different. Yeah, this is really no different.
Back in the day, we had these things called mixtapes.
Yes.
And you would lift the cassettes around, and you would do it all, and it was a whole thing.
Believe it or not, I own one. I cannot play it, but I own one. And you can see my vinyls on the wall.
That's awesome.
But
nice.
Those aren't special. It's a bit of a trend at the moment.
Yeah. Hey, everything old is new again.
Absolutely. So another question I really wanted to get into, as far as building narrative and whatnot, is as far as the game's roster, right? We call them agents because they are agents of the Valorant protocol.
Yes.
And so a big question mark is if it would be possible, if we would ever see a character join the roster, a playable character that is not a Valorant protocol agent.
Yeah. I'm not sure about playable. It's interesting. I think what you're going to see is characters joining the roster that are, members of Valorant, but have their own reasons for being there. That are, themselves. All our agents actually have their own motivations and their own relationship, their own sort of like why I'm here.
Right.
They're all quite different in terms of who they are and their motivations. There's going to be some other agents that are coming where that's even more the case. I think the other aspect is like non-playable characters that are not part of Valorant are also there are other characters that are part of the world that have a presence that you haven't started to really see yet. But as we start to build up and tease out some of the larger storytelling, you'll start to see some of that start emerge too. Yeah.
Yeah, and those things are quite exciting, especially for me personally, because world building is something that I enjoy so very much.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love writing, about interpersonal, connections and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
world building is just such it's a playground, right?
We'll get you some more. We'll
Yeah.
definitely be getting you more ingredients to play with. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. We're excited. So that
Yeah.
also brings me to ask. So as far as future proofing goes, right, with the narrative, we have this conflict now, and while we may not absolutely understand the ins and outs of this conflict, Valorant is designed, hopefully, to last years and years and years, right? No different
Mhm.
than League has, and so we have to ask if you've implemented or at least thought about conflicts that could arise beyond the current conflict, right?
So the answer to that is yes. We haven't really delved enough into this conflict, and this is our primary conflict, and will be for some time. It's really is the central conflict that is taking place within this game. But there are layers. There are other sort of expansions and things that we have in mind. We have ideas of where we want to go for sure. I also think there's an approach to world building also where I think it's really important to try and keep everything in sort of a high level framework way, that where you don't box yourself in
Right.
too quickly. It's almost like you want it to be able to expand, and so that you can
So you
take
don't
it
have to
in different
shoehorn in
directions.
some kind of
Right.
twist, right?
Yeah. So, we've definitely got ideas about where we might want to go. There's a lot of mysteries in there that I I look forward to answering one day. Like, who's that Agent 8? Who
Right.
is he or she or they? Like,
Oh,
Agent 8.
so mysterious that even the devs sometimes forget.
Yeah, we're trying to find out. As soon as we know, we'll get you more
It's a
information.
very fun conversation to have, given
Right.
the contradiction between release order and agent orders. So I'll have
I
that
know.
conversation quite often. So yeah, when I'm speaking about Valorant Protocol 15, really, yes, I'm talking about the 14th release agent.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
But I appreciate that you've implemented that because it makes things interesting.
There's a sidebar about that where there are certain people on the team who do not thank me for like someone making that decision of like, oh no, wait, you don't understand. There's this Agent A. We can't fill that slot. There's Agent A, and then we have this misalignment in terms of the numbers and the
Right.
actual agent numbers that are assigned to them. So yeah,
It's fun. It's fun.
It's made things more interesting for the team for sure.
And then I'm glad the community's not alone in that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So I know earlier you spoke about the coming into the team and there being pre-existing narrative items, right? And obviously we have to tread lightly around this because you need all kinds of clearance to speak about things like that. So really, I just wanted to ask, aside from the challenge of convincing the people that you were starting to work with that you weren't going to completely demolish the ideas that existed beforehand, what challenges did you face in crafting a narrative with something that had gone through so many iterations before?
So there's I think two things that really stand out, right? One was what I spoke about earlier, where this was not a blank sheet of paper.
Right.
So setting aside the fact that you had a really rock solid fun game with a really great vision for the gameplay and for all these different aspects of it. There were, just the sheer practicality of things like the maps, for example. The maps are some of the most complex sort of undertakings in terms of the sort of content that goes out. The amount of work that goes into building and constructing these gameplay spaces that support the gameplay, but then also the visual aspect that is not just visually appealing and tells a story, but also supports that clarity. Then there's the whole storytelling aspect of like, does the map have a story to tell? Does it fit into the world? And honestly, when I joined, a lot of the maps that we launched with were already pretty much done, right? So you have those ingredients. Then there was the characters. We had our launch roster, and a lot of the fundamentals on them were also done. There was some opportunities with them to sort of reimagine the characters from a sort of design point of view. We hadn't recorded the VO yet, so with Zach on the team at that time, we still were able to really lay down a lot of the fundamentals there. But that challenge of how do you thread together and create an interesting foundational lore now that makes sense, that we can build on for the future, but that doesn't require us to go, oh, none of this works, we got to throw all that out, right? So that was a challenge. The other part was this is more an opportunity, and it kind of speaks to something that I think is really important with games that gets talked about a lot about in game development is, and I'm not using the exact way that it's been described historically, but there's this cognitive dissonance that can exist between your sort of world and your lore, and then what the player's doing and the actual game experience, right? So,
and that's especially true for this game.
Yeah, and a good example of that is, right, the thing that you're doing in the game, does it align with the central conflict and the things in the world that the characters care about, and so forth, right? And so that's where I think a lot of the heavy lifting was done, was to really come up with a way that we could build that in, so that was there in the foundation. And that does speak to where some of what is more where we're going. So I think a lot of the world and lore that we start to reveal over this year will contextualize that a bit more than I can really talk about right now. But those were two big challenges for sure.
And let me just say, I mean, the maps I feel are probably the introductory part of the lore, of the narrative to the player, because there's so many objects or set pieces that really grab your eye.
And if you
do bother to look up. Absolutely. So
they're so amazing.
Our community loves the maps team. A lot of the maps team are part of our community, part of the server. Frisk, B Mart, and all of them, Merms, thank you for your 3D modeling and Tactibear and whatnot. So for me personally, the first thing that really grabbed my eye was the Kingdom headquarters on Split. It's just so iconic. It's so massive. It's so overshadowing. It's incredible that you were able to translate things like that despite the limitations of keeping the play space clear, and also being confined to the definitions of this game, this genre, right, of the of the this tight competitive shooter.
And again, like, that really comes down to the team, and just to sort of gush a bit more about them. I mean, it is collaborative. When I joined the project, I'm ramping up with the team and the project and the challenges that they're solving. I'm also having to take on all the learnings that they've internalized over the years about gameplay space, readability, things like that. And so that's where the maps team, that was some real fun that that was actually really fun. As crazy it is the push to launch, it was like actually miss post pandemic. I think I probably speak for a lot of the Valorant team, but I
Mhm.
know with the Maps team particularly, they're such a tight knit crew. I When I first joined the team, I just went and basically camped with the team,
Mhm.
moved my desk over there, and it's that sort of camaraderie and that everyone working together, trading
Right.
ideas. Like that's the part of the process that's really fun. So a lot of that lore content that people enjoy, that really came about because the team was excited, they had ideas, they wanted to do it. It's their passion was able to sort of level it up and make those things happen. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And shout out the Maps team. They really are incredible. We appreciate them so very much. We have everything to thank. Obviously the entire team, but a lot of it goes towards them.
I mean, yeah, and there's a ton of unheralded people that do amazing work behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the character team has also been doing amazing work as well. It's really fun working with the PC team that come up with all the crazy weapon skins and ideas and that stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's just a really fun sandbox to
Absolutely,
play
yeah.
in. Yeah.
So
All right.
we'll go a bit off the path here with this question, but this is a very curious thing for us. Like you
Mm.
mentioned, many of the agents are part of the Valorant protocol for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
But despite those reasons and despite their differences, perhaps they still band together to face this common threat, right? And
Yep.
so we ask, just how great is this threat that it would, put aside? It would ask them to put aside their differences.
I mean, it's really a threat. It threatens the stability and the security of our whole planet. So, I mean, that is the stakes.
Absolutely,
Pretty big
and
stakes. Pretty
those
big
those are
stakes.
pretty big stakes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Uh,
know, I know you're not able to speak on. You'll want to be careful around this topic, but
mhm.
obviously we've taken notice to the fact that the agents are cognizant of the fact that there are copies of them, so to say, on the opposite team, right? This isn't a situation like say like Overwatch, for instance, where it says
Right.
gameplay is non-canonical, right?
Mm,
Matches are non-canonical, but here, right, there's
mm,
this window for that opportunity, and a lot of people are very, very, very critical of that because we're familiar with the fact that that can sometimes put you in a corner, right, in terms of what you
mm.
can do with your characters and what you can do
Got
with
it.
the narrative. And but
Right.
we know that there is this parallel universe slash mirrorverse phenomenon that may or may
What
not be a
is
thing.
there? Oh, tell me more.
So
Curious.
personally, I found quite
Yeah.
a few details, and some of the
Oh,
earliest being
okay.
in the Duelist cinematic.
Right.
Right at the beginning, actually, Jet's name and Phoenix's name are at the bottom there, but Jet's name is upside down, right?
Mm.
And so for a lot of
Wow.
people, they might see that and think, oh, it's because they're fighting against each other.
Mm.
But no, right?
Yeah.
Especially with this introduction of the concept of mirrors, right? That plays a more interesting role in that theory. Yeah.
Well, it's
I can,
interesting.
you know what? We can go off stream and I can chat you up about that, maybe.
No, no, it's just, I'm curious. Just, I'm finding out more. I'm learning more as we talk. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Another thing a lot of people are curious about, and when it comes to voice lines in the VO, are
Mhm.
wanting to see, or rather hear, the agents speaking their native languages more often. For instance, someone
Oh,
like Sage,
okay.
right, doesn't really have any lines that use her native
Mm.
language, and so, or what we assume to be her native language, and so a lot of people ask, will we see more of that in the future?
Yeah. So, I mean, so depending on where in the world you're playing the game, right? You're playing a regionally localized version, right? So, assuming that most people are playing here in the region where the lines are all in English. The way we think about it is that the Valorant protocol itself
Mhm.
is sort of a like its identity is rooted in the English language, right? Like
Okay.
like the agents are numbered as such. The call signs, right? The call signs are Valorant issued call signs, right? The
Oh,
agents have some say in what they are, obviously, but it's like it's not like, hey, this is my nickname from birth, right?
right.
That's sort of their Valorant code name. And then so when they're speaking, they're sort of all defaulting to the default language to facilitate the battlefield communication, et cetera, et cetera. And then when well you'll see like when there's a sort of a heightened emotion and expression, a yelp or something, that's where the sort of the regional language will come out. Yeah, and so that's how we tend to think about that when we're writing these characters. Joe Killian is the writer who's been working on sort of the characters. This sort of had joined the team while Zach was still here, and with Zach going to League of Legends, he's been doing the writing duties on characters like Yoru, for example. I'm pretty sure Yoru has some local. Oh God, Joe's gonna feed me the answer to this one, probably while we're talking. But yeah, and I know with Astra, that was one also where we had a lot of fun getting those little regional call outs. And in
Right.
Ghana, there's a range of dialect and languages, and then English. There's English and there's Pidgin English,
Yep.
and so there's a lot of really fun twists and wordplay and things that Effie, the voice actor, was able to bring. But we also want our players, to be able to follow and understand and the characters without having to have necessarily spent time in Ghana learning Pidgin English or wherever a character might be from.
Right.
So yeah.
And I mean, just quickly making a note on that, it's incredible to see that translates through the VO, right? It's a testament to the writers on the team that not only are you representing different places through the visuals of the character and the promotional material, but when it comes down to it, the voice that they have is also truthful to their origin and what they're representing.
I mean, it's always something we're striving for. It doesn't mean that the execution is always perfect.
Absolutely.
But that is the intent. We take it seriously. The team spends a lot of time, researching, gathering information, and then finding opportunities to work with experts and consultants
Right.
who can make sure that we don't stray from the path, or that we're just hitting those sweet spots, those little things that you or I wouldn't even know. And then when someone from the region is like, "Oh my God,
Why is
how
this
did they
this or
know
how did they
that?"
get this? Yeah, and we saw a
Yeah,
lot of that with Astra,
yeah.
Astra's release. Yeah,
Oh, Astra. I love Astra. I was so happy with Astra. She's so great.
she is.
Yeah.
And the hype for her and the teases were phenomenal. They
That
really got us excited.
that was fun. Yeah, the team, and a lot of that stuff is the two is the team getting excited. Like that was a great example of like the character team and the maps team, and then just people getting excited about how can we really sort of tease this out in a fun way. And yeah, this whole concept, and then so I don't I don't feel like this is huge spoilery, but like basically, what you were seeing there was essentially Astra sort of observing Valorant, before she decided to join the team. So she's sort of learning, and
Right.
that's part of what you were seeing with the signs of her presence around the maps.
Absolutely.
That was really fun.
And it
Yeah,
was such a great glimpse into her personality and her
yeah.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Yoru one was amazing too. I loved
Oh
that. Was
yeah,
again the
obviously.
footsteps.
Oh yeah, yeah. In
Yeah.
game, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, putting aside the unfortunate leaks that occurred around that time, many of us
Ooh.
boo indeed, boo indeed. Um, but
Yeah.
our server, for instance, sorry, our server in that case
Yeah.
actually avoided
I
leaks.
saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were so good.
I
Oh,
mean,
thank you
and
so much.
we don't do that as a, I mean, obviously a part of it is respect for the devs and the work you all put into making sure that this is delivered in the format that you intended. But
Yeah.
there's a huge difference between what occurred then and then things, for instance, like Rumble Mike is doing Valor Leaks, where he's
Yeah.
data mining live
Abs-
versions of the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's like because we are intentionally hiding things and sometimes in plain sight, sometimes less so. We're intentionally wanting to like put all these little teasers around, and so yeah, like things like Valorant leaks. That's awesome when you see them, and sometimes they're finding things you're just like, what? How did they uncover that? How did they
Right.
find that? But yeah, the main thing is just that we just want the players to have that surprise. It's like opening that gift, right? And it's like
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
someone just puts the gift on the table and they just didn't wrap it or anything, they're just here you go, right? Like that's not nearly as fun as like, oh, there's this beautiful gift and you open it and like
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
whole ceremony. And so
The
that,
emotional
yeah.
rise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that just from that perspective, it's always a bummer for the team, especially when they do put a lot of thought, and we're always excited about, haha, like how's this? What are players gonna think when they see this?
Right. And I got to have a glimpse of that as I've prepared this ARG
Yeah,
for the community.
yeah,
Nerve wracking, absolutely nerve wracking, but at the same time, seeing them pick things apart is super
yep,
gratifying. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so I know we were shooting for a certain amount of time. I just want to check on you and how you're doing with time.
Well, I'm looking because my partner's gonna be home soon.
Hmm.
My cat is still out in the yard. Probably have to go get my cat soon.
Okay.
But I can probably do maybe another 5 minutes.
Okay.
If that's
So
good, we can do some rapid fire rounds or something.
absolutely. So um,
Was there a
this one's
question about agent heights?
there was a question about agent
All
heights.
right.
Yes, coming from
Question about
Alex.
agent heights. Okay. So let me see. We're actually I think we're actually gonna we just I literally when I got a heads up on that question, I went and talked to Josh Smith, who's our art director on characters, and it's we've had conversations, we've established it at the time, and it's like, oh yeah, we should dust that off and just give it a quick update. But I can give you some pointers. Where's that image? I'm looking for the note he sent me. Josh,
No
I
worries.
don't know if you're watching. I'm looking for the thing. But the tallest male character on the team is Breach. I
Okay.
do know that much. And then I think the next one down from him is Brimstone. Oh, look. Thank you, Joe. Oh, look at, wow. This is amazing. Oh, thank you, Joe. Awesome. Joe, I hope you're appreciative. Like giving you a shout out on here. Okay, all right, let's look at this. Yep, Breach is the tallest. Yeah,
Amazing.
you know who's surprisingly tall is Phoenix. Yeah, he's taller than I thought he was. Let's see. The other ones are so I think that the shortest is probably Jet.
Okay.
I think followed maybe by Killjoy, although that hat definitely adds a few inches.
Naturally.
And then the other characters are all somewhat within a range. I actually don't have the specifics, but I know this is something for artists, right, who want to
Right.
create content around it. It's helpful to know. And obviously, when you see them in the game, everyone has to be the same height for the gameplay reasons.
Absolutely.
But I think we could put something together to share to the community where we can be a little bit more specific. So
Okay.
because you brought it up and the question came in, I'll make sure we get something out there that can get
And
that information.
thank you, you and
There you go.
Josh, and
Yeah, I just gave Josh some more work.
I'm sure he'll appreciate it. So yeah, just wrapping up. I want to say thank you again for doing this.
Yeah.
Granted, you know, I don't think an hour is enough time for any kind of conversation about narrative.
Well, it was going to be 30 minutes earlier, and I was like, I talk so much, I don't even know if we'll get past the intro. So
I share that trait, and I completely understand. But yeah, again, I know that as you said previously, you want to be a part of a fixture within the community to help cultivate that connection between player and dev, and ultimately the game.
yes. And, you know, if you don't see me around engaging, just know it's not that I'm like,
You also have a life. It's completely
whatever.
fine.
Well, I have a job as well.
And of course, right. And if
Yeah,
you weren't there doing that, then we would be in serious trouble.
it takes a lot of time. Yeah, I do have a life. I have a partner who does not play video games and prefers me to be not in digital worlds when she gets home. So, but that's good for me, you know, and maintain a sense of balance as well.
Which is important.
But yeah, you know, like I think I said to you this before, Annie, but just to say again, like I think it's just really something for the community to know about the teams that make these games, right? It really is like we all were on the outside looking in at some point, whether it was games, books, movies, whatever were the things that filled our brains when we were kids, and wanting to be part of creating something and having these sort of creative impulses or whatever desires they were to sort of have a meaningful life, I guess,
Yeah.
and creative output. And then you know, as you grow and you get a career and working in video games, like the fact that we get to create worlds and characters and content, but then also have the players engage and have that conversation and see the inspiration of the work like that you do with the ARG and the art, like all that shipping art. It's amazing. It's so fun and creative, and the little doodles, and it it gives us energy back, right? It's like that energy is flowing back to us, and it's very inspiring. So you know, despite what might sound like when I'm talking, I'm pretty shy, and I don't jump naturally at like let's have a conversation in front of a whole bunch of people. But you know, I think it's just really important. I want all the community, everyone who plays the game and has an interest in this stuff to understand how much it matters and means to us
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
well. So
And hopefully
yeah.
this experience, despite being my first, has been
You were really
comfortable
polished.
enough.
Yeah.
You know what? You're free to message me afterwards and tell me how you really feel.
I'll
I
give
know
you a grade.
I know that being a lead gives you a few qualities of being able to give great feedback. So please.
I'm sure your community will let you know how you did.
Oh, absolutely. They're gonna tear me apart. They're gonna tear me apart.
Let you know which questions you didn't ask. How could you not ask about
I'm
this?
already feeling it now.
What?
I'm already feeling it now. So
Yeah.
that being said, we will have to do this again. There are many other people in the community, and I also want to give them a chance. And you know, I can give so many shout outs at this moment, especially Valorant Hub, who I know you've recognized. I talked to Zaki, who runs that quite often, and I want to make sure the entire community gets an opportunity to speak with you and the rest of the team. But that being said, I would love to do this again. So as I'm sure that as the narrative evolves, we will see so many other questions arise. So it's only natural.
Good. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. All
Um,
right. I'll see
thank
you in
you
the
for your
channel as
time.
well. Yeah.
And thank you. Yeah. And so that being said, thank you everybody for stopping by the stream. I can't thank you enough for showing up. Is Twitch okay? What is going on here? Hello?
So that's what happened with the big conspiracy, and that's the part that I wanted to share with everyone today.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that. I'm sure that they'll.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come around and be ready to discuss that once we're done with the stream.
I know, a bit of a bombshell.
That is huge. That is huge. I'm excited. I'm shaking right now. So. Thank you again, David. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
I just saw my little character.
Absolutely, yeah.
I didn't even see it earlier. Who's the artist that creates those?
So that's my partner. They were sitting behind me earlier, but
right.
Tofu Crisp, Keanu Greaves. They have many alias, but I'll let them know that you appreciate it.
Thank you.
And so yeah, thank you everybody. Say bye to David, and I'll see you in the server.
Bye. Bye.